Morning, everyone. It's me again. He'll be sick of me by the end of this, or probably already. Thank you for joining us. We've got our next session. It is the next generation propulsion, how it's going to change the boat building landscape. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Christoph Ballin. Christoph is, for those who don't know, is co-founder of Torqueedo and is co-founder of Tyde. And we've got Erik Stromberg from Beneteau Groupe with us, and we've got Nicola Pomi from Volvo Penta joining the debate. Now, I'm going to hand over to Christoph. He's going to kick things off. He's got some questions, and we're going to have a good session for a good half hour, yeah?
Lovely. Thank you, Ed. Welcome, everybody. So let's start the discussion talking about how next-generation propulsion is changing the boat building landscape. And I'd like to start with the first question to Erik. What does the advent of next-generation propulsion mean for serial boat builders? What are the challenges and what does it mean for you?
Thank you, Christoph. I'm glad to be here. For us, it's definitely a challenge because we see obviously additional integration of elements into the boat, whether that be electric, whether that be hybrid. We have an infrastructure of the boat today that is very well understood. We know how to build it, we know how to service it, we know how to explain it to the customer. All of the new generation propulsion systems will bring different challenges in terms of integration, in terms of education. So we really need to work on our scale for sure with strong and robust partners that can help us do that, because it was relatively simple to take an engine and bolt it in the bottom of the boat and put a shaft or put a drive or an outboard engine. And any of these types of systems here require a much larger think about the entire integration of the systems, energy management, and so forth. So it's not just changing out one propulsion for another. It's an entire redesign of the infrastructure that it goes into the boat.
And you mentioned on, if I may ask, there can be challenges of a different nature. Huh? So one nature is getting your hand around the technology. One challenge can be that the skill profile of your people may need to change. Another challenge may be that so far the next generation propulsion technologies represent just such a small fraction of the market that it may not fit to the value chain of a serial boat builder who's specialized on producing larger volumes, right? So that may give an implication on when is the right time for a serial boat builder to get into a segment that we expect will become big, but that is not big today.
That's for sure. I mean, at the Beneteau Group, one of the value added is serial production. It's how we drive down costs and how we deliver to the world and so forth. So it's part of our business model. And so when you start going into a technology where the volumes are not assured, the distribution is not assured, it definitely changes the way that you think about it. Our mindset is that, yes, we have to continue to do serial production, but we also have to prepare for the future. So we're working with lots of different ideas, different technology, and so forth. Today, we have to be very reasonable, and we have to be very honest with ourselves what the potential is and how far we can go. But we believe that if we find the right mix of technology, of customer benefits, of cost, and so forth, that we can get to serial production at some point, even if it might be in a lesser series than we would have in a more traditional layout.
Yeah. And I believe it will take the serial boat builders to come on board on this to make it mainstream. And so this process, I think, is especially interesting. I think it's wonderful to see the progress that you're seeing on your, at Beneteau on various fronts. So that's wonderful. Going to Nicola. The marine industry has always been different to the automotive industry in the sense of, in automotive, the vehicle manufacturer almost always does his own drivetrain. Whereas we are an industry where the vehicle manufacturer is almost never the drivetrain manufacturer, with the exception of the Brunswick Group and probably some others that I don't have on my screen right now. And at the same time, we see that some of the next generation propulsion players integrate that. People like Candela, people like Arc. So does the advent of new technologies change the split of work? And in what way will it be challenged? And what's your feeling about that?
Okay, first of all, it's a challenge. That's pretty clear. We in Volvo Penta, we, of course, when we started this kind of let's say sustainability journey, try to look into the future propulsion system. We realize, and Erik touched perfectly this point, that the equation is a little bit complex in that respect. We start from a technology that is one size fits all, no? And then we enter into a new technology that every single use case has a potential different propulsion system. So this is a challenge because it's we don't have a silver bullet, we know. And then as a leader in this industry, we need to test all the possible alternatives we have. This kind of job has to be done together with our partner, of course. It cannot be done alone. But of course, you need to dig in a different solution you have. Electrification is one of the solutions. No, we are talking about parallel hybrid, serial hybrid, how to accommodate the batteries. Of course, we have to start from a common, let's say, base, which is efficiency, which is super important also to understand the exact use case for every single vessel in order to use the power what you really needed, energy when you really need it. But also, we have discussed also during this journey, during these days, about alternative fuel as well, is another solution, we have talking about HVO, we have discussed about methanol, we have discussed about hydrogen. Penta is really active even in this kind of solution because we really don't know what will be the solution next. But coming to your question, I think that to be, successful in this journey, we need to strengthen the relationship with our partner. We need to start to test product because I think the magic starting from there. As long as we talk, we are very nice to explain to the audience as an industry how we cannot reach the right range, how we have to reduce the range to have the same speed, why we cannot install hydrogen, why we cannot install methanol. But we need to start to get the next step. So to start to test the product, to get the feedback of customers in order to understand if we are going in the right direction, how do we have to calibrate the next step. But it's amazing what you can get when you start to test the product. The feedback you get from the customer is really the way to build the next step of this journey.
Can I just jump in there? Sorry. The boating landscape is going to change, isn't it? But the consumer landscape will change because consumers have got to change because there is no one-size-fits-all solution at the moment to these problems. So you talk about data, and you talk about getting the response back from how customers use their boats. That's going to change the development of boats, isn't it? In terms of you're not going to be able to sell a one-size-fits-all boat anymore. They're not going to be able to go 40 knots for 100 miles, and then they're not. So how is that impacting what you're doing at Volvo and what you're doing at Beneteau Group?
Yeah, I think it's a data-driven experience, which luckily today we have more and more. What Nicola was talking about in terms of the testing that we did around a hybrid system where we were able to put hundreds of people on the boat over a very long period of time to see how it goes and so forth. We have all of our boats, for example, in the Beneteau Group are connected boats. So we have more than 6,000 boats that are out there. So we start to get a sense of whether they're doing 40 knots or 20 knots and how far and how long. And this type of data is helping drive some of this decision making. And we didn't have it before. And to a certain extent, we didn't need it before because we would put the engine in the boat. The people could go far, they could go fast, they could go here, they could go there. We didn't know, and the technology worked for them. But here we're going to have a much more data-driven approach because even when you speak to the customer, they have a different idea of how they want to use the boat than they actually use the boat. Boating is about no constraints, right? I mean, it's what we sell. It's you can do whatever you want. You can go wherever you want. And so we have to be clear on what the capabilities that we can bring to the table are, but that has to be driven by how are people actually really using their boats today. And that data that we're starting to get back in through very focused customer surveys, through the data, through the connected boat technologies, are helping us really shape how people are using the boats.
It's an interesting aspect that, in order to sell the boats, we may have to hit the expectation of what the customers think how they're going to use
Well,
it.
look at the automobile industry. They had to move up to, even when they explained to people that you only do 50 kilometers a day to go to work and back, people said, oh, I can't accept that. I have to have 500 kilometers because my car before had 500 kilometers of range. So there's an educational process and there's a change of mindset that'll have to come along with it.
Absolutely, and indeed, it needs these data to create the right dimensions of battery banks, which has a huge impact on cost and on feasibility, and on looking at the Ecomia report also on the greenhouse gas effect of going electric. So it's, I think, is a very important step that you have the richness of the data there to make good decisions. And in that aspect, how does that change the collaboration between engine manufacturers or motor drivetrain manufacturers and boat builders? I can imagine that this is kind of the type of information that needs to be shared and looked at jointly to come up with the best solutions, right?
Yes, correct. You touch a very good point. Of course, we are active not only with the association, but we are, of course, with our partners. We are working together. The project that we have run together, Volvo, Penta and Beneteau, is going exactly in that direction. So trying to look into what is the exact, use case for the specific boat, understanding what is the, feedback and expectation of customers, but also trying to add on something more into the boats. Saying by going electric, for instance, you can have even, new functionality. You can have a better experience. And I think that is a little bit the key when it comes to the testing together. So we get a lot of information from customers, how do they use, and as Erik said, starting from there, maybe also the customer are starting to change also the way to use the boats because of the new feature they have. For instance, going in the area full electric, carbon free, using the same functionality as the diesel, but in a full electric mode. This is everything that can a little bit compensate a little the fact that they cannot be, maybe they don't want to go super fast, but they can use maybe the boat a little bit at slower speed because of the carbon-free footprint. This kind of things is coming when you start to test the things. That's the reason why we are testing. Of course, we are active in this kind of size of boat, but in Penta we have more than 7 boat running in Crossholmen with different system in order to understand, the different use case, the different, let's say, behavior of the boat in certain, application, no matter if it is electric or alternative fuel. This is the way that we are doing.
Yeah, I think you touched on something in terms of the customer experience, because any of these alternative fuel or alternative propulsion systems today are more expensive. It's inherently more expensive by the technology, by the low volumes, by all of the research and development that goes into it. And so just replacing the propulsion system with another propulsion system that has less features, and is more expensive is a tough value proposition. And so Nicola hinted on it, that we're able, with some of the projects that we've done, and the one notably with Volvo Penta involving a parallel hybrid system, bring features that were not possible with an internal combustion engine system. So, with Volvo you have a joystick docking feature, but whether that being in an internal combustion mode where it has to rev up and respond and so forth, in the electric mode it's much more responsive. It wasn't something we set out to do, but it was true that way. The house battery banks that are on board that can run propulsion can also run the air conditioning all night, so you remove the generator. So there's all these other features that are, I won't say they're byproducts of those things, because we did study what was going to be the features. So we have to bring, the real shift to alternate propulsion will have to come with other features and benefits than just the pure propulsion mode, because for pure propulsion there is a system today that exists that is very competitive, so it has to be better.
I couldn't agree more. If we want to switch to new and alternative means of propulsion, it cannot be a sacrifice only, in the sense of we pay more, we have less range, and now we shall feel better about it. That's it's not convincing. And I truly believe also the the challenge is to offer something that may be different to the convenience we've been used to, and that is then altogether different but not worse. And then it can become attractive, I guess. And in the last days, that's kind of my last question, just came to my mind. In the last days, we have talked a lot about what different next generation propulsion technologies we can think about. You know, the name of the session was very generic. It said next generation propulsion, leaving it open to everything. And over the last days, we have discussed electric, we have discussed hybrid, we have discussed e-gasoline, e-diesel, methanol, then hydrogen, of course, then even ammonia. So how many different propulsion technologies do you want to handle in your companies?
Yeah, that's dynamic. That's a beautiful question. You know, the answer, the straight answer is we need to test all of them because we don't know what will be. As you said, there is no silver bullet. So that's the reason why we have a large, we have doubled the research and development resources over the last 4 years because we need to test. We don't know what will be the next generation of propulsion. It will be more e-fuel, or it will be more, let's say, electric, or full electric, or diesel electric. It depends also of the, as I said, of the use case you have. Maybe in some specific boat, they fit perfectly the full electric because maybe you are in a lake, you are in a canal, and then you have a recharging station over there, and then you can use it full electric. But when you are in the open sea, you need in any hour combustion engines if you want to cross the ocean, or you want to go from one point to another. There is number of solutions. We don't know, honestly. We need to test, as I said, all the alternative we have. One of the most important things is that in any hour we cannot avoid this kind of point, which is the customer journey. So in this journey we need to add on something in any hour, because as I said, as an industry we cannot tell every time, yes, but if you want hydrogen you have to reduce by 40%. If you want electric you need another boat with batteries. This kind of discussion is not really not sustainable. So we need to start to test the system, to look into what is the reaction of the customer, and also try to come from this experience in order to add on what the customer really wants, what the customer really appreciated. And maybe by doing this, as I said before, we can start also to thinking about another way to use the boat, not only in terms of usage, but also, this is another point, is how do we own the boats probably in the future? So the ownership,
and even the design, the architecture, everything.
Exactly.
So I think that it's true that the testing of the technology from a propulsion standpoint is one aspect of it, and what we've been interested in working with Volvo, Penta, and other partners with is that at some point probably the true way to unlock some of the technology is to have boats that are specifically built around the technology, that deliver the technology in a way that really has true benefits to the customer. Today, other than some of the sort of one-off type boats, the majority are sort of a repower or repowering of boats that exist today. But if the experience is going to be radically different, the boats could also become radically different. And that, I think, is another shift, and I don't have to tell you anything about that, but it is something that it's probably not step one. It's with the way that we see it, and going back kind of to the production volume and so forth, we see that really as step two. We need a certain level of adaptation of the technologies and of the solutions, and then you can take that solution and say, okay, this solution here around this technology, in this use case, the boat that goes with that is this boat. And so it'll definitely be a big push to design hull forms, hull shapes, weight, load cases, and so forth around the exact technology and the around use case, which again is not as much done today, because today you have the power to do whatever you want with the boat, and the boat doesn't have to be specifically designed around a particular use.
Erik, you just bringing you back to that specific use cases. You guys in your group have got Delphia, and you're doing that with that brand, aren't you? It's turning electric. You're focusing that brand fully electric, yeah.
Yes. So we have we allowed us to, because we have a wide portfolio of different types of boats. We really wanted to try, like Nicola was saying, to test different things, different markets, different use cases. So we have two projects that are commercially available today. The Delphia, which is an inland canal boat. So it's a use case that works very well. You're not allowed to go faster than 10 kilometers an hour in the canals in Europe. So if you want to go 10 kilometers an hour for 10 hours, the technology exists. So it works in that case. The other one that we work on is with Vision Marine and with our Four Winds brand, where we do inland lake runabout boats, mainly for the U.S. market. And those boats, again, they live on a lake. You have a dock behind your house. It has a plug. And so it fits these sorts of markets. And I think that we have to be cautious moving forward, that we pick the right boats, we pick the right use cases for the technology. If you try to sell to somebody who wants to do offshore fishing, some kind of alternative propulsion, it's not going to, maybe we'll get there someday, but we can't start by that. We have to start by the use cases where the technology is mature enough and that it will meet the customer's expectation. Otherwise, we risk even doing harm to the transition that we're trying to bring about.
And it must be a that potential nightmare for production lines, yeah?
Yeah, right now we're not producing at high volumes, any of these sort of things, but for sure it's going to be, we saw it with Delphia. As we shifted over to a very high level production of electric boats, that there was different training, there are different skill sets and so forth. And again, there is the need, and going back to the sort of the theme of how it is the partnership between the engine manufacturers or the propulsion manufacturers and the builders, is we need that help. We need for them to be robust enough and to know enough about the technology to come and train and help in terms of the production process and so forth, because just like what you see in the automobile, the building of alternative propulsion boats is very different. The order in which you put the things in, the type of handling that you do, it's a different world.
And it also has massive impact on the service side. So that landscape's going to change.
Yes. So that, again, is a training element of it. It's an educational process for the dealer networks, for the end customers and so forth. Obviously, it's one of the things that's interesting with Volvo Penta. They have a worldwide network, but the worldwide network today isn't ready to service these boats, but that'll have to be part of the equation. Otherwise, we will fail in the mission.
Which is an opportunity. One of the guys I was talking to on one of the panel discussions was saying that, the auto manufacturers now make more money out of servicing than they do really selling cars. So that may be a way our industry will go.
Well, for sure. I mean, there is today a business model that is the servicing of internal combustion engines. It's going to have to transition to servicing other things, but it is part of the business model and part of the service that people expect.
Go ahead.
No, but just is correct. So this kind of technology also is changing a little bit the business model, as I said. Of course, we are present globally, to serve the existing technology. Of course, changing on the next step, we need to also to take into account the challenge we have in order to have the right people in the right place with the right training in order to serve this kind of service and this kind of system. And also, you need to take into account that the other big part of this business will be service, of course. How do we create this kind of serviceability according to the new technologies that's coming in? This is another big question mark that we have to sort it out for the next technology, for sure.
And I think, in summarizing, because time is almost up, from my perspective, on the one hand, we can, without thinking too far into the future, we can start doing, everybody does that already, we can do things that make sense from where we are today, where we see a segment that lends itself to put a foot in the water and look at alternative ways of propulsion that are then cleaner and more sustainable, and we can do that. And then on the other hand, I believe we need to create a longer-term vision because we cannot try out 5 different technologies in depth. Our industry is far too small for that. We cannot do it on the propulsion manufacturer side. We cannot do it on the boat builder side because it has also implication on how the boat looks. And so I believe it is very important for the industry not only to do to oversee, like in a chess game, the next move or the next 2, but to develop a vision for the longer-term future. And the ICOMIA report, I think, is an important step in this direction, even though we may disagree on it individually and we need to scrutinize the results over the next weeks and months. I think it's important that we come to at least similar understanding of where the lines are, which segments of the industry we believe will be electrified, which segments are in the industry we believe will go to whatever type of e-fuel, because otherwise it just gets too complicated and too expensive. And then, of course, everybody's free to pursue whatever strategy he wants. But I think while everybody I talk to agrees that there is no one-size-fits-all solution for us, which is also different from automotive, it's important to become a little clearer where the brake lines are going to be. Otherwise, this transition will pose a too big financial burden for everybody who's in it. Huh?
No, but he's right. Of course, there is another important point, which is the maturity of the technology as well. Because, I mean, it's right that we cannot test everything. But, I mean, when it comes to the alternative fuel, one of the problem we have is the availability of the alternative fuel. When we're talking about HVO, when we're talking about how do we produce this alternative fuel? Of course, to be really green, you need to produce this. You need to produce green methanol, for instance. No, I mean, you need to be green in all sense in that respect. And the availability of this kind of alternative fuel, for instance, is not really there today. But we are just at the beginning, as you said. I think that the ECOMIA report is a way to start. We need to start from somewhere, no? And then we can find a different way. But I mean, important to understand, to agree as an industry where we start, where is the base. Then we go. And of course, when it comes to batteries, you touch also the point of the batteries. If you look at the cost of the battery in the last 10 years, they dropped 80%, something like this. I mean, this is a signal that in anyhow, I mean, technology will play a super important role in that aspect when it comes to the cost of the system. So we need to stay open, because we cannot just decide, okay, it will be not the future. We need in anyhow to keep all the door open in order to see also where the next step of technology will get us.
Final question. You recently purchased a battery manufacturer in the US. Was that with regards to land transport, or was that also with regards to water mobility?
We, of course, in Volvo Group, we have our own, say, battery strategy. We have it, of course. We have we are in this deal, clearly. And the idea is to have a battery, factory. We know that the battery will play a super important role in the future. So, of course, as a Penta, we try to benefit as much as possible of the, heritage coming from our big brothers. They are, more volume than us. They are more, maybe, they can build maybe some better business case in some cases. But I mean, of course, we will bring benefit from this.
I don't have anything to add. I think it's. I totally agree that the technology will drive some of it, and I don't think today any of the technologies are mature enough to say, okay, for this boat it's going to be electric, for this one's going to be a parallel, this one's a series, this one's a hydrogen. Perhaps maybe a couple of years down the line, we'll start to see where that goes, and there are some very clear and cut use cases for some of the segments of the market, but in other segments of the market, it's still relatively confused, and there isn't a solution, or there are multiple solutions, and which one will win out. I strongly believe that we still need to stay in this exploratory phase, this exploration phase that we're in today. I don't think I agree with you, Christoph. If we're here in 10 years still experimenting, it'll be a problem. Because we want to found the way forward. But we start to see some things that are coming, and so I believe there is a way forward on some clear areas of the market, and the other ones we still have to look. And it's part of the interesting work that is done between Beneteau Group and Volvo Penta, is that we are very much focused on that long-term plan. We're not short-term companies, and so there is a real push to say, okay, we have a solution that is here, we have a solution in 3 years, what is the solution in 10? So there is a lot of thought going into those sort of discussions.
Yep. Okay, I think we can draw that to a conclusion, guys, yeah? We're running out of time now. So thank you so much for joining us, Erik, Nicola, and of course, Christoph, and for your insights. It's been really fascinating.
Pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, audience.
Bye.